Welcome back to Sunderland Podcast, where Black Cats walk. This week, we're asking the big question, why are Sunderland turning into a team that like to sit back once they've got a goal in front? We've got Dylan and Leo to answer that question and look back at the Leeds game. We're also asking about atmospheres at home games and when is it ever right to leave a game early? We're asking that question all on our 10-minute Sunderland Podcast. Welcome to Where Black Cats Walk. All right, let's get straight into the question. Welcome back, Dylan. Welcome back, Leo. Dylan, I'll come straight to you on this one. Why are Sunderland doing the old Dodds technique of scoring and sitting back?
I think we were all a bit confused by that because the last thing you want to do against a team with that much attacking quality is sort of just sit back and absorb pressure. I see why we weren't actively pressing at points because I think this is one of those teams where if you commit too many bodies forward, they're just going to look for that killer ball over the top. I think it was the same went for Middlesbrough a couple of weeks ago. So I understood that, but I think it just went on for too long. We gave them too much of the ball, and in a time where we probably could have gone for a second to start trying to kill the game off, we instead let them back into it and the momentum shifted, and I've got no explanation for it, but we got the point in the end, so I can't complain too much.
Only just. We'll come on to that in a minute, though. But Leo, it's not the first time we've seen this season where you get your noses in front. It happened a little bit in the Middlesbrough game as well. Do you think you've got the players to do this kind of this approach of we'll nick a goal, score a goal, and then we'll let you come at us and nick you on the break?
Well, I don't think that's what Lebris wants to be doing at all. I think that could just be a thing of old habits creeping in with what we've done all last season and players thinking we're playing a massive team, we're trying to stay top of the league, we need to hold on to this win, this lead rather than extend it. It creeped in against Plymouth as well, went a goal up, and I was sitting there wondering why we're giving them so many chances to get forward, and it was obvious they were going to get a goal eventually, and they ended up getting 3. I think in terms of our defence, we can be very solid, but I think when you're doing it for that long against a team like Leeds, that they're going to get one. And they got 2 in this game, but they're going to break you down at least once in that amount of time. But I don't think this is what Lebris wants to be doing. I think he's still trying to figure out what his best lineup is, if I'm honest, in terms of the 2 centre-backs. Obviously, with Ballard coming back, are you going to drop Metham, who's been in quite good form recently? And especially with the midfield and Dan Neil and Alan Brown in that conversation. So, I mean, I don't think it's what he wants to be doing. But, you know, if we can manage to hold on to that lead, then I have no problem with it. But it hasn't shown to be successful so far.
All right, we'll have a look at some takes from social media in a second. But let's get your just general views of it, let you discuss with each other. What did you make of the game overall? Did you think a draw was a fair result?
Well, I don't know about you, Dylan, but I was sitting there. Obviously, how the goals went in is an absolute fluke show. But I was sitting there thinking we needed that piece of luck to even be in to get back in the game. I don't think once they went 2 goals up, different to us, they were actually very solid in defence, and we were getting in positions, but we were never getting clear cut chances. So we needed something like that to get back in the game. But those last 10, 15 minutes, we were putting the pressure, we were piling the pressure on. But I think overall, yeah, a draw's fair.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. I think, as you said there, even in the last stages when we had the ball, we never really looked like scoring. I think they just took the game away from us. They managed it really well, better for the same way that we tried to in the first half and sort of failed. I think you've also got to look at as well. It got given. There's no point moaning, but he was definitely offside for that first goal. And then there's obviously their second goal. There was the free kick that probably should have been given, but again, it didn't. So I think from that point, yeah, do we deserve to take the point? I suppose so. I also think we could have killed the game off in the first half if Job had just had that bit more experience and just took a touch. He was in acres of space both times on the edge of the box, and if he just took a moment to steady himself instead of hitting it the first time, I think at least one of those shots goes in, if not both, because he showed mid-game before that he can strike the ball. So yeah, the way we went about it, bit diabolical, but I think I certainly think we deserved the point in the end.
As a neutral, obviously watching it. I was thoroughly entertained by both sides, and I don't think that game would have looked out of touch in the Premier League. Having watched Everton against Newcastle myself live in the stadium this week, I far more enjoyed watching Sunderland and Leeds. I'll definitely give you that. Just on that offside, then let's have a look at what you were just talking about. You still saying he was offside here, Dylan?
Yeah, 100%. He's off. Look, I disagree with the way that the offside rule is nowadays. I think it should be sort of like a clear ball's width, but especially the way they're doing it with VAR in the Premier League, if his toenails in front of the defender, then he's offside. And I think anywhere is offside there. His arms in front, his front legs in front. And I mean, I was sat opposite side of the ground, and at the time I said I thought it was off. So if I've seen it, I don't know how the linesman's not seen it. But once you'd be angry if you got given against you, but obviously I'm going to mourn because it cost us a goal. So
let's have a look at some of the social media takes. And Ewan says sitting back tactics works, but doing it 10 minutes in, one goal up is straight Dodds-Ball, which is what our conversation was about earlier. And Paul goes on to say, we was at our best, we win comfortably, but for some reason we keep letting teams pick us off while we sit deep. We'll keep probably coming back to this question, I'm sure, over the next coming weeks. Miguel says, well-deserved draw, but Regis is taking too long to make some substitutions. So you need to trust more on the bench. Leo, are you having that one?
I just think, I don't know what it is with our fan base, but the second that we drop points or the second that we lose a game, it's the manager's fault, and the manager needs to do all this, the manager needs to do all that. We're 9 games in, top of the league. He obviously knows what he's doing, and someone's sitting there on Twitter saying he's making subs, too late. I mean, okay, the goals went in how it's went in, but we've got it, and we've got the equaliser. So, okay. I mean, I'm not really complaining about the subs.
Mundell's had a great start to the season, but last couple of games, I think even one of you mentioned last week that just looked a little bit off it. AFC Fan says Mundell is so badly coached. He's the most predictable player I've ever seen. Can you see where? I mean, there's a couple of similar posts like that saying Mundell needs to switch it up a bit. Dylan, can you understand where people are coming from with that?
Well, to be honest, no, not really. That's got my head's on my arms a bit after reading that, because I think what we've been saying for the past few weeks is that whilst Jack Clarke is far and away the better player, we're sort of looking all right because Mundell is good at the plethora of things, whereas Jack Clarke was just good for cutting in on his right and getting the shot away. Mundell showed he can run down the line, he can cut inside, he can shoot on his left, he can shoot on his right. I think the problem is that he was quite isolated, especially in the last game. But I think that was more due to the good defensive prowess of Leeds, as opposed to us being badly coached. I don't know what he's been sniffing, but I certainly disagree with that. I mean, he hasn't been the best the last couple of games. I mean, up until then, he's been scoring or assisting every week, so you can't really knock the lad, can you?
Okay. The other tweets talk about the atmosphere and people leaving on 86 minutes. Leo, I'll come to you first on this one. I won't ask Dylan because I'm sure he'll explain why in a minute. But you're 2-1 down at home. You are, like you say, peppering, well, not peppering the goal, but you're certainly peppering your area. Against Derby, it was the same as well. You were comfortably winning, hordes of people leaving on 82, 83 minutes. There's lots of fans talking about it. Is it right that fans are leaving in their hordes?
Well, as someone who, for the past couple of years and for the next year on, I'm living abroad, so I only get to go to 3 or 4 games in the stadium per season. I do not understand it. And I think fans who do that, obviously, if you're getting absolutely romped at home, then there's, if you feel like you haven't got your money's worth, you deserve to go home. But when there's one goal in it, such a massive game, and at that point, and you're having a lot of the ball, and people are hoping, all right, maybe we can get that one chance. We got 10 minutes left. Whether it's to beat traffic or whether it's to do whatever, it's just, I don't think it's worth the extra 20 minutes in traffic if you want to see that happen in the last seconds.
Let's have a look at what the tweet said. So Chris Foster says 75% of the Tories fans who already left will have to catch up with the equaliser replay when they get home and then sing to themselves, Leeds are falling apart again. They move on tomorrow and follow their real team, Newcastle. Craig Stanley says, what's with everyone leaving on 86 minutes? It's embarrassing at 2-1 down. Go on then, Dylan. Why did you leave on 86 minutes?
Well, just to clarify, I didn't leave on 86 minutes. I left on 95 minutes when Dennis Serkin jumped over the ball and hoiked it in the rosette from a corner because I was due to work 3 a.m. and I thought that was over. I thought I'll beat the queues to the train. And I've been out the ground maybe 15 seconds and heard the cheers, so I was quite frankly gutted. But also happy that it scored. I think when it's earlier in the game, that lasts with like 10 minutes before the end, when there's a goal in it, yeah, it's probably a bit poor, but people have got the reasons, and I suppose we can say what we want, but it's not, people aren't going to not leave if that's the way they feel inclined to act. Me personally, I've always been big on like trying to stay to the end almost all the time. The only time I would ever leave a game like in the middle of it early is if they just don't look arsed on the pitch. Last season when we played Swansea at home, I think it was about 27 minutes in, Luke O'Nine's had the opportunity to clear it and he's just passed it straight into their attacker and they've scored to make it 2-0. And I rang my dad because he wasn't even at the match yet. I said, "Are you coming?" He said, "No, I'm in the pub." I was like, "Right, I'll see you in 5," and I left because it didn't look like they were trying on the pitch. And that's the only instance in which I would agree with leaving early if the players just don't look like they're trying. If you're getting beat by the better team, I've got no issue sitting watching us get romped if a better team's just come and put us to the sword. But it's when we just don't look up for it. I mean, if the Mags game in the FA Cup, if it wasn't the Mags, I probably would have left during that as well, because that was another game where we just didn't look at the races. But yeah, as Leo says there, people like to try and beat the traffic, and I know the queues to get the metro in and out of Sunderland straight after the match are always a nightmare as well. So I can see why people do it, but I also sometimes find it a bit baffling how like personally deeply offended some people get about it. Like it doesn't bother me if I'm there. That's all that matters to me. But I suppose atmosphere-wise, it can be to give a bit of a knock in the latter stages.
That's what I think. I think you're just in the last 5 minutes of the game chasing a game. You know, do you want the stadium full or 50% capacity? Like,
oh, that's 100% right.
Much bigger lift for the players, and especially in a game like that, where you know, if it wasn't for that fluke, we don't get the equaliser. We could have done with that lift from the fans.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? When you're 2-1 down, you know, let's say if Leeds were winning 3-1, you can understand it, can't you? But especially when you're at home as well. And just a quick word on the general atmosphere at the stadium. Like this season, we're talking this week a lot about atmospheres and how some stadiums are really struggling at the moment. I mean, I saw your light show against Derby. I thought that looked pretty good. But Dylan, have you been disappointed at all with the stadium and how it's been this season?
I wouldn't say I've been disappointed with it this season, because I think it's sort of been the way it's been since we last came down from the Premier League. However, that being said, Friday was actually quite good compared to what we've normally been having. It was before people started leaving. It was really loud. I think most of that was probably down to because it was Leeds, and you know what they're going to say if you don't sort of turn up. But yeah, we've sort of always struck like in our ground at the minute. I feel like if you don't sit in the rover and you don't make any noise, and like where I sit, if you try and start a chant in the middle of the game, you get looked at like you're an absolute freak. So, but yeah, it doesn't bother me. But I think that's just because it's what I'm used to now. I certainly would say at home our atmosphere is pretty naff, which confuses me because away from home we bring the noise every single time and we'll always sell out and make so much noise, and I just wonder why it's not really the same at home. As I said a few weeks ago, I think it's got something to do with the fact that the away fans have been moved as far away as humanly possible from the South Stand as they could have gone. I think that does impact the atmosphere, because you see every week away fans will be tweeting saying it was dead quiet even when it hasn't been, and our fans are tweeting that they couldn't hear them, and I think it is just because they're so far apart that you don't really hear each other.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Next week, then, we'll be looking at the next game, which, of course, is away at Hull. And we're also going to be asking you for your predictions as to where Sunderland's going to finish, because we'll have reached game 10. And you know what they say? wait until 10 games, but then we'll make a prediction how the season goes. So we'll get your predictions on that. Thank you all very much for watching. Drop us a like, drop us a subscribe if you haven't done so already. And we'll see you on the next episode as we preview getting mauled by the Tigers. See you next week.